the first thing that I like about this Browns team is their rushing attack. I think that when you talk Nick Chubb, you talk about their offensive line, they are still very much designed to run the ball. The personnel that they have was for when it was Baker, and that design was run the ball and play action pass. They still implement that. It's been shifting since Deshaun has been there, or since he's come back, but that's been their approach, and I think that they still do a good job of it. Nick Chubb still is very tough to tackle, his contact balance, that helps him in terms of being elusive, his great vision, and his durability, man. But to me, their rushing attack is the first thing that I like about them.
I got the same thing. I don't really have much more to add. I feel like their offensive line is still pretty damn good. They've had that track record over these last 2 or 3 years, but particularly in the run game over the past game. And then Nick Chubb is a top 3 or 5 running back right now. I was gonna call TG because remember he said he would take. I think he said he would take Najee over Nick Chubb. This was like a couple weeks ago.
I remember. Yep.
And I looked at Nick Chubb's stats. I'm like, he was saying like he was having an off year. So I'm like,
his off year ain't no off year,
he's
bro.
He's having like 1,400 yards and like 12 touchdowns. But then he clarified today, so I have nothing bad to say about TG and that take.
Without a doubt. The second thing, though, that I like about this Browns team is I think they're very talented. When you talk Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, you talk Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, you talk, in the secondary, Grant Delpit, young safety, good player. Obviously, Denzel Ward, good player. Greg Newsome, good player. I think they have a lot of talented people, a lot of talented personnel over there. And not for anything, I just think that that's half of the battle in this league, man. Can you execute is the one part, but do you have the horses to actually get out there and run with these dudes? And I do feel like they have that in terms of the talent.
Well, I have that listed as my third one, but since you just said it, why not follow up? I have individual talent. Amari Cooper. The 3 I have highlighted, though, is Amari Cooper, Myles Garrett, and JOK. I mean, you could throw Denzel Ward in. They're just their secondary, too, because they have a couple good safeties. But I'm a little suspect on their secondary. Now, the stats are going to show that they're a top 10 pass defense in the league right now. But they've gone up against similar offenses as us in terms of going up against the NFC South. Yeah. And also, what's the other team? The AFC East with those quarterbacks and those offenses.
Or in the NFC East as well.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those scenarios almost like Baltimore. Like, you respect what they got going back there in the secondary.
But
it really isn't. Like, they've had a cool season. And I would say maybe with us and our secondary, our numbers have been a little bit inflated at times just because we are going up against some of these lesser quarterbacks. Yeah. But I do think our secondary is still solid. And that's same to the Browns. I just don't necessarily know if they're definitively a top 10 and someone to fear or anything like that. Yeah. But the individual talent does show up just across the board. They got it in Nick Chubb. We already talked about him. Cooper, Myles Garrett. You talked about Clowney. JOK, the secondary. So, they got guys out there. Deshaun Watson, even, too. Even though he's rusty, he's still a talent.
Yeah, and even with his rust, it's the rust is hurting him, but at the same time, you can still see the elite traits that helps him get out of some of the trouble that he creates as well, man. So now I'm with you on that. And then the last thing that I had is I think they just play fast, specifically on defense. I like how they come after the ball, man. They, when you're talking to Myles Garrett, you're talking to Jadeveon Clowney. They're big players, but they're explosive players in that front. You talk about that linebacking core. I mean, obviously, you brought up a guy like JOK who's been injured and stuff like that. But even when you talk about just the Tony Fields element, he's a sideline-to-sideline guy. He plays with speed. We like Deion Jones. He was the guy that we had interest in, before he had left Atlanta because we know, what he is capable of. I just think that they play with a good speed on defense. Not saying that it's perfect. Not saying that it's always the most productive. And I want people to really understand the difference of what I've said. Talked about the talent. Talked about them playing fast. But we haven't said that this is a group that is crazy productive or fundamentally sound or highly consistent either. We haven't used any of those words, but that is Cleveland this year specifically. They have pieces. They flash certain areas. At times, you watch them versus the Commanders, you might think that they're a really dope team. But then there's other times versus that same Commanders team, and you're like, bro, this ain't what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, he kind of got lucky. Carson Wentz threw his 2 balls
seriously.
At the beginning of the game.
Or the last pick, I'm just like, why are you throwing that? Just aggressive for no reason. Kind of like we said about Mitch that one time, where it's you didn't need to do that. That was,
Yeah, my Wentz take last week might be a little off. That might have been a bad call. But at the same time, were they winning with Heineke last week? Guaranteed.
Right.
Probably just should have started Sam Howell. They're doing it this week.
Yeah. So does this make every rookie except Matt Corral?
Yeah, and the only reason he didn't was because of
he was hurt.
The injury.
Yeah.
Because the Panthers were at a point he would have started.
Oh, facts.
Right?
Yeah, he definitely would have.
Well, yeah, they've been through, 3 quarterbacks this year?
Yeah. Baker, PJ, and Sam. Yeah.
And, at some point between, like, Baker, PJ.
Or before they came back to Sam,
yeah. They would have thrown Corral in, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my last one is some of their secondary guys are stepping up on offense. No joke. I mean, how many times over the past couple of years have we looked at this Browns offense and been like, okay, they got Odell. This year it's like they got Cooper. Yeah. None of these other dudes I'm worried about or have stepped up.
He's just a regular guy.
Yeah. When's Njoku actually going to live up to his potential? And Njoku's having a fine season. Yeah. Peoples-Jones, he's got 800 yards and 3 touchdowns on the year.
Yep.
And then, I mean, David Bell's not like a terrible third option. Combine him with, like, their second tight end and Harrison Bryant. Also, not Anthony Schwartz. He hasn't been doing anything this year. Just David Bell. That's who I wanted to bring up. Yeah, so, like, those guys, and you combine with the Kareem Hunt, who's always going to be a steady second back.
But shoot, they even played that. They was playing the other running back a good amount, too. The Ford dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's another one that, so I'm with you. I am definitely.
They actually stepped up and are actually, like, legitimate option. And this was even before Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
You look at the Deshaun Watson stats for Jacoby Brissett. They were more productive as an offense with Brissett throughout the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually having some extra dudes step up. That's my third thing.
I could dig it. I can dig it. And now for the don't likes. For me, man, I'll just start with their identity. They're a team in transition. They were built to run and play action pass, not to throw the ball a lot. Now Deshaun Watson is back out there, and Deshaun's a quarterback that you throw with. Deshaun's a quarterback that you trust to run your offense. But at the same time, they don't have the personnel all the way for that style of gun, a ton of pass protection and stuff like that. That's not their design. And then also for Deshaun, I mean, he's still having to get up to speed in his own right. So when I think of them and their identity, I just think that they're kind of stuck in transition, but it's happening at the bad time because it's in season and it's at the end of the season. We transitioned earlier in the year. When we started figuring out, hey, we're not a team that want to throw it 40 and 50 times. We want to run this ball. And now we had time to really like fine tune it and get locked in this thing. Whereas for them, I just think they're still trying to figure that out. And it's just at a terrible time for them.
This guy kind of goes hand in hand with that. I just have quarterback situation.
Yeah.
You had Brissett, who I didn't really think was that good in his own right, but actually did a pretty valiant job. 64 completion percent, 2,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, 6 picks, 60 QBR. And then you make the switch to Watson, and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be an instant upgrade. And it's been worse. 36.7 QBR, 56 completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. So, yeah, just with the Browns, I think they were limited with Brissett. Now they're getting a rusty Deshaun Watson. Yeah. So, like, just their whole quarterback situation throughout this year hasn't been optimal.
Yeah. Which brings to my next point is consistency, because that is also a byproduct of this transition. They aren't very consistent. Really, it shows when they throw the ball. I think their running game is still good, but they're not as committed to it. But when they are throwing the ball, it's just some plays, the offensive line protects really well. The receivers get open. Deshaun's in rhythm, and it looks great. Other times, it's Deshaun, are you holding the ball too long? Are the receivers getting open? Is the offensive line protecting right now? So it's just a lot of just consistency issues that I see from the offense. And then on defense, you can say the same thing when you talk about their pass rush. Sometimes it looks elite, it looks scary, it looks dominant. Other times it's like, they just some guys over there. There's nothing crazy going on. Talk about their pass defense. At times, hey, man, they're getting interceptions. They flying around. They look good. Other times it's like, they're getting carved up. Everybody can get off on this group. Just don't hit them in the face with the ball and we're fine. Like, that's them. So consistency is definitely something that I do not like about this team.
My second is run defense. They're not that good. They're like 26th or 27th in the league. Total rush defense. Or defense against the opposition's rushing on offense.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe that goes hand in hand even a little bit, too, as to why their secondary has some decent stats and some decent metrics. Hey, people just decide to run the ball because they could have success against this Cleveland defense that way. So, this should be a good game for Najee. And I actually think we did pretty decent on the ground.
We did.
In that first game on Thursday Night Football. I think that was Najee's best game up to that point. Jalen Warren was doing some stuff. So, yeah, look for that to happen. Look for this 1-2 punch, because now it's really heating up with Harris and Warren. Look for that to be a pretty good factor in this game.
No, I would agree. And then the last one on my end is their pass protection. They are talented, but that offensive line struggles if you're asking them to pass protect 40 times right now. They're not built for that. I think that, when they're pass protecting 20 to 30 times, which was what they did for Baker, they were top tier. They could do both, pass block and run block. But when you're asking them to pass block to that level, I think that's when you start to see them get exposed a little bit. And Deshaun, because he's not in rhythm, he's holding the ball a little bit longer. So they're having to protect a little bit longer. And I just think that dynamic for them, they're just getting put in harm's way a lot more frequently. And they're not really designed to do that just yet. Full offseason, I think, is different for them. But for right now, I just think that that's something that is still going to hurt them more than help them in this game coming up. So that's why I say pass pro is the last thing their pass protection is the last thing that I don't like about them.
My last one, their kicker. He's not that good. 75% on his field goals made this year.
No.
He's
a rookie too.
If it wasn't for Boz, he would have the worst in the league.
Why'd you say that? I was really about to go with you, like, yeah, man, he sucked. He a bum. I knew he was stuck with it, and they drafted him.
That's a little bit of a lie. It's a little bit of a lie because Harrison Butker has a 73.9 percentage, so he's squeezed in between the two.
Oh, man.
But Cade York, really not that good of a kicker. Every time I see a Browns game on TV, he's missing some big-time kick. Yeah, he's a rookie. Like, I guess they had some high hopes with him, but he hasn't delivered. Listen, dude, I still have faith in Boz because he has at least proven this throughout his career that he can step up and overcome adversity. But with Cade York, I don't know what to think of him.
Fair enough.
Even though Boswell does have the worst
Boz is my
stats
guy
this year.
I'm a Boz guy.
I saw Matthew's right percent. He was like 84 or something, like 84%.
Bro. Chill out. All right. I'm Team Boz. Y'all know that. I remember Boz before y'all called him. Was it a Boz? Ha. So I'm always supporting my dog.
I'm still good with Boz.
I'm supporting my dog.
I'm poking fun a little bit as to why is because I was pretty high on Matthew Wright whenever we picked him up. I thought he was a good signing. No, I still have faith in Boz. It's just been a weird. It hasn't. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on the season, it hasn't been the kicks that have killed us, right?
Correct.
It hasn't been the last
misses,
second kicks or anything like that. It's just been weird ones, and you're just looking back, okay, we could have more points up on the board. And then the two in the Bills game, kind of irrelevant. Yeah. It's just not good to see, though. I still feel like he'll deliver when it really counts.
I'm with you. It makes us feel not confident.